DDG episode 201. My name is Dave, and I'm joined by Michael.
How's it going, Dave? We have it's the week before Thanksgiving, so I feel like it's pretty chill right now. I'm assuming you're not as stressed as you usually are before the holidays.
Yeah, it's very, very different. My company is not busy during, like, I mean, we do like a Black Friday thing, but it is not like we're not getting pounded with stuff, and we don't change a bunch of stuff. So it's a very, very different feeling. I'm very excited. Like I'm very thankful that it's
There you
just,
go.
yeah. It's just very different. It's just different and weird. I don't know if I've told you this or not. I'm on vacation December 18th to the 24th.
That's crazy.
Like,
but my job is going to be dead around
Yeah.
that time. I'm not going to be off, but it's going
Right.
to feel like it.
But no, I submitted vacation,
Dave,
and
not...
my boss approved it, and he encouraged me to take vacation in December.
Yeah.
Like
it's funny because I feel like previous years, you know, especially like when I worked at like Best Buy, we would be pre-tired for Black Friday, like a week or two in advance.
It doesn't feel like it's a week before Thanksgiving to me, because I'm not getting, pummeled with freight or having to put this gigantic checklist together and make this plan and make sure that we're checking all the things and executing things. I don't have to do anything. Like, I'm still in retail, and retail is retail, but it's a very, very different company. Like, we're like they're just, it's more like a consistent company. Like, we're busier in the spring. I think I've said this. I sell tools.
Home improvement season, spring and summer.
Right. So people working on their yards and starting to build fences or whatever, working on projects that you really don't do in the winter. So the customer doesn't really, the traffic doesn't increase. The customer changes, because like we have all the flyers, or people come in with like, my husband said he wanted this, or my partner said he wants this, and they're like, I need a circular saw, and I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be the old school days of like, we're the adult, the toy store. So, and they get the they get the little circle thing.
That sounds a little weird, Dave.
Yes,
I can mean something else, but I get what you mean. The adult hobby store.
All the customers that I talk to say this is like my toy store. So like the customers that I talk to. So, or I'm a kid in a candy shop or something like that. Maybe that's a better term. So, all right.
Maybe slightly.
So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that posts every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time on podcast services. We also are on YouTube and Twitch. We live stream on both channels at the same time. Twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming, YouTube.com/Digital Days Gaming. Subscribing and following to both of those is free, so we encourage you guys to do that, please. It helps us. There is like a YouTube, eventually there'll be a YouTube music thing. The podcast is going up there in an audio only format, as well as you can watch our replays, archive stuff through our live feed. You can just see the episodes, and I believe they just stay there without us.
As far as I know, they're just in the live tab, not the video tab. It's weird. I think I can move them over eventually, but they're fine where they're at right now.
So if you wanted to watch us or see, and you missed the stream, I know we didn't do a great job for a long time of archiving our Twitch stream, so YouTube does this automatically, numerical order, all that fun stuff. So consider subscribing on YouTube. If you want to turn notifications on, it'll let you know when we go live. It'll let you know when a video is posted. There is some RSS stuff coming for YouTube Music as well, podcast wise. I also heard that like Amazon has a podcast service. I think we need to look into.
They do. We're on there.
Okay.
We're on there. Yeah. We've been on there for like a couple years now.
See, shows you what I know. So
yeah. Amazon Music, find us there.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And Audible, I think Audible has us as well.
Okay, awesome. And then, like I said, we're on Twitch, so we're a Twitch affiliate. You can subscribe to us if you want to. With that, you might be picking up Twitch or Amazon Prime this time of year as you're hoping to get stuff. But as Michael and I were just talking about, it doesn't seem like it's the 24-hour turnaround on shipping that it used to be.
No.
But if you do have Amazon Prime, you can link it with your Twitch account. You get a free subscription to a streamer of your choice. If you want to use that on us, that is super helpful. But other than that, everything else is linked in the show notes. Discord server, Facebook, Twitter is all in the show notes. You can join there or go to the website, digitaldaysgaming.com. And we're going to get right into it.
Yeah, so the first thing is, it's just kind of a funny coincidence. We were just talking about Suicide Squad and how they need to kind of ramp up reintroducing this game to everyone, because I think it was last week that Dave was like, when's that come out? And I was like, let me check. And we found out it's coming out February 2nd. So that's coming very soon, and Rocksteady have decided that they're going to release an episodic series that dives deep into different like aspects of the game. This week they focused on the story and the gameplay. Something to take away from the video is gameplay wise, their justification of how the Suicide Squad's able to fight the Justice League is they basically raided the Hall of Justice to get gear to help combat them. So give some characters a little bit of like some Justice League powers that can match the actual Justice League, who are being controlled by Brainiac, which I believe we already knew that, but there you got a little bit more interaction. You saw a Green Lantern. I think it's John Stewart's Green Lantern, and then you saw the Flash. So decent amount of stuff. Dave, before I ask you about what you thought about it, I will ask you another question. Do you think it was great that they didn't mention live service at all?
It seems like they've, to be honest with you, like it seems like this delay was, they didn't say it when they delayed it, but I feel like it's pivoted. Like it's
as
like,
much as they could. Like,
yeah, it's done a full 180. They said free updates. I did hear that. It looks like they took away. And I mean, I'll just go right into it. It looks like they took away the Borderlands look of it, like the Borderlands aspect of it, of numbers, like damage numbers and stuff. I didn't see any of that. The HUD.
Thank God.
Right. If the HUD is off, with what I saw, like I was concerned about the HUD being a little bit too cluttered, but this was I didn't know that they were doing this. Tom said something in our Discord. And I didn't know there was anything talked about this, and then you messaged me right after that, and like, hey, here it is, and I watched it today. I'm actually back to being I was lenient. I was confused about it at the beginning of as a Suicide Squad game fighting the Justice League, and I was concerned about the games as a service aspect of it, just because of the struggling in general of every game as a service right now. This 20 minutes was for me was fantastic. Like I'm anticipating this game now. They explained what's going on. It makes sense to me. It connects to me of why you're fighting the Justice League. They were able to take care of that in the first 4 to 5 minutes. The free update thing, I'll be curious to how they handle future post-campaign content, but this is kind of like what I would want, is a story-driven RPG co-op game. Like, and that's what they seem to have pivoted to. If it's a service game, I don't know. Like
yeah, next week they're doing mechanics, and that would be probably the time you would start bringing in some of the live service stuff if it's still there.
Yeah, they're talking about weapons. Like the trailer is like, our weapons are crap. Oh, go find this guy. He can help you with your weapons, which I'm assuming is going to be a little bit of loot. And then
was it Penguin was the arms dealer?
So it looked really good. Like in terms of what they were showing and how it was running. I felt like I saw some, I don't know if I'm being overly critical, like some frame rate hiccups.
I did see some of that stuff, but it's so hard with YouTube videos to know if it's just like, is that just like some like bit rate, streaming stuff?
I think now, like all the dust is settled. I think February is a great time for this game to come out.
Yeah, I think that would be the only time for it to come out. If they had pushed it to holidays, I think it would just kind of get lost in the shuffle. February seems like it would be pretty good. There's 2 things I took away from it early on. I might need to rewatch the video, but when they're talking about expanding the Arkhamverse, that kind of worried me in terms of like, I just don't want it to be connected to the Arkhamverse at all.
I think they were more talking about
their pedigree.
Yeah, the pedigree, because it's Metropolis.
Yeah, but Arkhamverse in terms of like it's in that Batman universe that we're used to, the Rocksteady universe, and that's the only thing that like concerns me, is like I just want it to be its own standalone thing.
I'll tell you what, if this is Rocksteady Combat, if this is Batman Arkham Combat, like in a cooperative format, with some loot to it.
No,
like
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm talking lore specific, because to me it just doesn't gel enough.
They're saying the world's twice the size of Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight was very big.
It was. I just hope it's more lively. Because that was a big thing against
and they
the
talked
Arkham
about
games.
that too. Like we didn't make a dark Batman game. We made a Batman game that's dark because Batman's dark. Which
I think that was a good aspect, and the humor definitely is shown in the trailer. There's moments where I didn't laugh, but I like smiled at some of the jokes they were doing, and I think the voice acting's doing a hell of a job of like giving the game personality.
Yeah.
I do think the world still looks just a little generic though, but we only saw them like hopping rooftop to rooftop sort of thing.
They focused on traversal, like that was like movement and traversal was a big focus.
Justified Harley Quinn's lack of powers sort of thing, which is the thing you always have to address with the Suicide Squad of just like, why is she here?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. So we've talked about it before, like with Avengers. Like you go back to Avengers and like, how much can you change Captain America? How much can you change Iron Man? They essentially, with what they're trying to write here, they kind of have an open book where they just they took these characters and then gave them Justice League powers. So there's not really like a canon thing they have to follow. Like the dude's a shark.
Yeah, well, it helps when they're like, no offense to DC fans, no one gives a shit about the Suicide Squad characters outside of Harley Quinn, but Harley Quinn is kind of a blank canvas now. So it gives you room to work with these characters, and I think they did a good job in this video of showing you these characters and what they're doing to them to make them interesting, which is the biggest challenge with Suicide Squad, because it's a bunch of D-list villains.
I feel like it's almost a little bit of a better spin on the Far Cry model. The Far Cry model has kind of always been about the villain.
Yeah, and that's the thing that DC's always...
You're a nameless protagonist. You know, like you're a mute protagonist, and now they're taking, you know, the land of misfit toys, so to speak, of Suicide Squad, and Harley Quinn has a Batman tool. That's what she picked up.
Yeah.
You know?
And if that means throughout the game she's just gonna be picking up more and more random Justice League tools, like I'm fine with that. Especially Harley Quinn's gonna probably be the most popular character to choose, just because that's the one with the biggest fandom. You're gonna have to provide a ton of stuff for that character.
Yep. It looks like on the surface early on, the Hall of Justice is your like social space, your home base, your base of operations. Like I feel like you're gonna probably grow that during the campaign, and then to see. But like right off the bat, if I wouldn't have known anything else about it, and this is the first time, like if like this is 6 months ago, and this is the first time they show Suicide Squad, and this is the first thing they show about it, I would have been sold. There's 50% of me that's hesitant because I'm worried because of what I saw 6 months ago. You know,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, this did a lot. We're gonna have to see how many episodes are gonna be in this series and like what other stuff's coming along. Because I don't think the live service stuff is fully gone. I just think it's gonna fall more in the cosmetic realm than it was previously. Because cosmetics is something that's just you can gouge the public with cosmetics because it's cosmetics. Like most people don't care, and most people will purchase the hell out of some cosmetic upgrades. So I'm fine with where the game looks now. I do question, like there was talk about like, hey, you know, this is a game that's fun to play single player, and I still have doubts about that because, you know, technically Avengers was like, you can play the single player, it's just as fun as when you're playing multiplayer, and it wasn't.
Well, the first question I had when they talk about you can play solo or co-op, what do you think the first thing that jumped in my mind was?
Because you mentioned Far Cry earlier, I would assume it's the will progression matter for everyone that's in the party, and that was something the Avengers thing I also think had problems with, but they had like a kind of a compromise for that. I can't remember what it was, and that's going to be important, you know, because I'm someone that I probably won't play this game from beginning to end in co-op, but I would want to dabble in co-op, and if you tell me progress doesn't transfer over when I help someone, that'll kill me from playing co-op. Period.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, good on them for showing this off. They have until February. I'm waiting for the live service stuff to come, like the next episode, especially after like the head of Warner Brothers a couple weeks ago was like, live service is the future.
Yeah.
And let's see if this kind of goes against it. But if you told me the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't know shit about things happening at his company, I wouldn't be surprised if he has no idea about the Suicide Squad game. Unless he's looking for a tax write-off, then he knows about the game. The next story that we have here is an update to Baldur's Gate 3. It is currently still on target to come out in December, so Larian Studios confirmed that the game is launching on the Series X in December. As you remember, Dave, this was a big thing where they couldn't get the co-op running on the Series S, and they finally were able to. Well, technically, it's still coming to the Series S. It just won't include the offline co-op. But yeah, it is coming in December, and Larian Studios said that they will be dropping the release date on the game during the Game Awards, which Dave makes me think it's dropping at the Game Awards
I would agree.
as their big announcement.
Or like the Game Awards are on Thursday or Friday, it'll be like this Tuesday, because that's when games come out or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. So not much to say here other than Xbox players will be able to play the game that will probably win a shit ton of Game Awards.
It'll win. They'll know. I feel like Healy will have an idea of what major award it wins, because it will win at least one major award. And at the end of that, they'll be like, oh, by the way, you can go play it on Xbox now or something. Like, there'll be something like that. And kudos to them. Like, that's great. The game not being able to run on X versus S, like, I don't give a damn about that stuff. Just get it on the platform. So
yeah, and all they're doing is basically dropping that co-op mode off of the Series S, which I think they're only dropping the local co-op mode too.
Correct,
so it's like even less of a big deal.
Split screen,
something like that. But yeah, that's coming. It'll probably sell really well on Xbox. I also wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being like, hey, it's out today on Xbox. Also, it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if either I could see it as being a Game Pass game, or then say, hey, play it on Game Pass for the first 30 days, see if you like it, get 20% off or something.
Especially like this game is broken into 3 acts. They could be like, play the first act on Game Pass Ultimate. Yeah. So they definitely could do something like that. Especially Act 1 has been out for several years because it was in early access for a while too. So it wouldn't be that crazy for them to just be like, yeah, Act 1's available.
Does that mean would that mean I would be able to play it on PC on Xbox through Game Pass if it's on Ultimate? Like, or would it like I guess that we don't know that because they usually only do the console format. I don't know if it's on the Xbox.
They have been getting better.
Yeah.
They have been getting better of like getting both PC and Xbox on the same page, but sometimes it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It all depends on like deals with Steam or Epic.
Well, I know you've mentioned to me that it probably is not a genre that I would enjoy, but as much hype as it was getting while it was being played, as well as much hype as it's getting on another story that we're going to be talking about later of a VGA nominations, it's intriguing to me to think about trying it, but I don't want to pull the $70 trigger on it. If it shows up on Game Pass, I'll totally try it.
I think it'd be worth you maybe trying if it was on Game Pass, but otherwise, spending the $60-$70 on it would be a mistake.
I know.
Yeah, unless you want to fuck a bear. No, okay, that's what I thought. So Dave, this also came out. This kind of cracked me up. PlayStation seems like it's going through some stuff right now, but PlayStation has delayed half of their live service games. As we know, a couple years ago, Jim Ryan announced that PlayStation would release 12 live service games before like Q1 2026, I believe was it, the original thing, or March 2026. And there have been questions on if that would be possible, what studios, what games. Now that Jim Ryan is gone as of last month, plans seem to have like had the brakes hitting like really hard. The current interim CEO, whose name is escaping me, on an investor call said half of the slate of live service games has been delayed. The company still plans to release 6 out of the original, 6 of those original 12 games in that time frame, but the other 6 have been delayed. No question on what those games were, because none of them have been announced outside of Factions.
Well, Concord.
Fair Games, yes, there we go.
Yeah, Concord and Fair Games and Factions, you would argue, is 50% of that list that should all be out before 2026.
Yeah. And then if you count, I still think they probably count MLB The Show there somewhere as well.
Do they count? The ultimate question is, do they count Destiny? And if they count Destiny in that equation, do they count Marathon?
We still don't quite know like
what
how
that connection is, right?
Yeah.
Or we don't know what Marathon is, but we also don't know what that connection is. Like when they're talking about, this is the part that's confusing. When they're talking about PlayStation Studios, technically Bungie is not a PlayStation studio.
They're a Sony studio,
correct.
Not a PlayStation studio.
So I'd be curious if that number counts into there, because I don't see Factions either. One of two things has happened with Factions: either it's coming out before 2026, or it doesn't exist anymore. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it can survive a 3-year delay on top of.
That's why I think Factions has to just come out before 2026. Faction has to be in that lineup of 6 games.
Yeah.
Just because it would just be a bad look overall on them if Factions got canned.
Yeah.
But Dave, this isn't surprising. Even when they announced it like 2 years ago that they're going to do 12 live service games, the timeline just didn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of mental deja vu before I ask this question, but just because this is kind of bugging me and I'm hesitant to ask it. Do you think that Ryan was forced out because he was pushing this too hard?
Based on what we've seen in reports where the PlayStation Studios heads, like the heads of those studios, were very against this, I could see this being a possibility. Either if it wasn't pushed out, I could see them questioning Jim Ryan enough that he's like, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
leaving.
Okay.
Kind of like that forced
Because it
push
just
out.
seems like every time, whether it was when Layden left and now when Ryan left, is like the first 6 weeks after that, after the either them leaving or they announced leaving, there's all this news coming out about, and it's the opposite of what the guy was saying.
But that has always been the thing.
I
Like
know,
when a new
and
CEO
I
comes
know
in,
they want to make their imprint and make their footprint,
yes.
but I don't know if I feel like you're making a great imprint by reducing your goals. Like I mean, yes, they're more realistic, they're more obtainable. Like I'm all for it. Like I get it, but it's starting to make me wonder if like a lot of those things that like was. I don't even know. Like, I don't even want to speculate. This was Ryan giving Bungie more money than what the other guy wanted to give Bungie, and then the other guy took it away, and that's what caused some of the layoffs. And but then Bungie's still falling on the sword because they're behind on revenue. But Ryan was like, I got to protect my investment. Like there's all these things that are racing through my head, and then hearing all this stuff about. Like you're not talking about 2 games. You're not talking about 1 or 2 games or 3.
6.
You're talking about 6, 7. Like.
But if you told me that like Jim Ryan didn't have like an idea in terms of, because he's a straight up business money man,
Right.
but if you told me that Jim Ryan didn't understand like what needs to go into a live service game and like how much like the market can handle, I wouldn't be surprised if once they got it out of Jim Ryan's hands, they were just like, okay, this is impossible. We were questioning, whether they could handle fair games and factions at the same time if
And
they
Concord.
wouldn't eat each other. Or Concord.
Yeah.
Like the fact that those 3 games could come out within like a year or 2 period was baffling to us.
I mean,
I'm
we're already
hoping that-
hearing about like a lot of people are like, I stopped playing Destiny because I picked up Diablo. I stopped playing Diablo
Yeah.
because I picked up Baldur's Gate. And Baldur's Gate's not even a games as a service, but it's still a grind. It's still a game that you can grind. And Destiny's a game you can grind. And most of the time, for the people I feel that listen to this show, 100% maxing out their ability and their time, 2 service games. Max.
Yeah, no, and you're also talking about like the PlayStation community, which has mostly been like, hey, we play single player games.
Yep.
You're then asking them to step out of their comfort zone, like do this live service game, do 2 live service games, do 3 live service.
Oh, here's
games.
Call of Duty again. It's as these things like that fatigue starts laying in. If you start Spider-Man 2, there's eventually a point where you can stop and walk away. That whatever that point is for you, I beat the story, I'm done. I did. I cleared a couple burrows. I got all the suits. I'm done. There's boxes you can check. Service games, every time you check the last box, 6 more appear.
Yeah, and that could be very daunting for people that aren't used to that, but they want to play that. I mean, just look at, because I remember, in 2018 when God of War, Detroit, Spider-Man, Days Gone all came out, and I think Concrete Genie was thrown in the middle of that too, where even diehard PlayStation fans are like, I can't do all this, and they were, picking it up, but they weren't playing it, or they just held off on buying them. Doing it to live service games would have put PlayStation in the point where it's like, oh, this live service game died because we released another one, and now we got to shut this one down. But now people aren't going to want to play the third one because we shut down that first one in 6 months.
And then that layer, I mean, I hate to go back to it, but Destiny's still lingering over on the outside of the pie chart, or it's in the pie chart of like, oh, like, if I'm Bungie, I'm like, wait a minute, you bought us, you want our live service talent, and now you're essentially competing against us. You're competing for our players' time.
You're competing against us. And just also the thing I was talking about, where it's just like, as soon as they start shutting down 1 or 2 of those games due to popularity reasons, no one's going to want to support the games down the road because they're just not going to trust it. And they're just going to be put in this like weird spot where they're, you're going to have studios like a Bungie or some of the other studios that are going to be like, I don't trust this company anymore because like they're supporting this live service game over my live service game. and you'll start seeing, people starting to leave, players not wanting to engage in the content, and then at that point you would potentially have to shift some of these studios that Jim Ryan bought from like, you're a live service studio, to can you do a single player game?
Mm-hmm.
And most likely what would happen in those scenarios are like, can you do an Uncharted game? Can you do a Resistance game? Can you do a Killzone game? And then you start playing with like the thing of like, oh, cool, so we built these studios to be live service studios, and now we're going to give them a single player, a beloved single player franchise. Hope they don't fuck it up and then like lose fans in the process.
Yeah.
It's a very slippery slope. So I'm glad the current PlayStation CEO saw that there could be trouble. Clearly, 6 games must be deep enough in development that they're just like, okay, we gotta push them through. And I'm assuming now they probably won't be afraid to delay some of those further. Right. I just don't have much faith that the 6 games that were delayed are actually not just canceled.
His Gran Turismo in that 6, whatever the next Turismo is, like, I mean, there's does MLB The Show count? Does Concord count? Does Marathon? There's just a lot of questions. Like,
yeah, so. ton of questions, ton of things that are kind of worrisome for PlayStation, but hopefully they've caught it early enough that they can like right those wrongs before they happen. But our last story is the thing that everyone's been talking about this week, and that is the Keeleys, the Video Game Awards, the Game Awards. The nominees have been revealed. Only a couple weeks of voting, which isn't too bad, but the nominees for the categories were chosen by Keeley's panel of media. So pretty much every major outlet got a ballot to fill out and nominate stuff. So don't yell at Keeley. Yell at the outlets that I believe you can see on the website. Because some of the nominees don't make quite a lot of sense. So it still feels like that thing where some websites are just like, we got to pick 6 and just throw some random games on there. But I picked some categories that are, I don't know, I thought they were the important ones, but Dave, if there's another category you would want to talk about, feel free to jump in. But the first category is the community category, which I just had to put in for Dave. So for best community support, the Game Award website's real slow because it's all fancy, is Cyberpunk 2077 from CD Projekt Red, Hello Games No Man's Sky, Square Enix for Final Fantasy XIV, Baldur's Gate 3 from Larian Studios, and Destiny 2 from Bungie. The Destiny one, Dave, seems to be the one that's the most controversial, followed by, I would say, Cyberpunk, because all Cyberpunk really did is release some good DLC. But best community support, Dave, do you think Bungie needs to be in this year?
Best community support, recognizing a game for outstanding community support, transparency, and responsiveness, including of social media activity and game updates and patches. Mm-hmm. If you're reading that sentence, yes, 100% Destiny 2 belongs in there. Seasonal content, constant updates, fixing things, balance patches, like, again, from playing it, like, I understand that, like, and yes, it belongs in there. Does the optics look awful that they get nominated for best community when they just laid off 8% of their Bungie community? Yeah, yes, it does.
Yeah.
But what? So like, and then the reverse of it is you're talking about Baldur's Gate. I don't know enough about Baldur's Gate. You might be able to speak on this a little bit better. But did the game have to get constantly patched when it came out?
It didn't need to get constantly patched, but they've been doing such a good job of patching the littlest things that they can.
Because I don't feel like Cyberpunk was a patch. It was Liberty City expansion.
Because the patch was last year, if I'm not mistaken, like the big patch that fixed it.
I don't remember. I don't know what Final Fantasy 16 is a,
14.
Oh, 14. Okay, never mind. I can't read Roman numerals. 14's fine.
That makes sense. They brought back the community events this year.
Correct. And then No Man's Sky, like, I don't know exactly.
They did release a big patch.
Right. I don't know exactly what they're. I don't know how No Man's Sky keeps making money. So,
I don't know, but they keep getting nominated for this award because they keep doing like amazing things.
Yeah. So, but yes, when you're best community support, yes, Destiny belongs in that avenue. Yes.
It's just the bad optics for right now, which shows you that these votes were locked in probably.
Well, and here's the other thing. Like, Destiny released a teaser trailer for next season, and still has final shape dated for February 27th in that trailer.
Yeah. So
It's
it probably wasn't delayed.
So now I'm even more concerned that you just laid off 8% of your staff and you're still releasing the game on time. How? So
we'll find out, Dave. We'll find out. It means they went to the other PlayStation internal studios and were like, we're going to need you guys to help us squash some bugs.
Yeah, they got some big shoes to fill from their statement saying they're trying to put this on the level of Taken King and Witch Queen. So they're backing themselves in a corner. So, but the last time they backed themselves that deep in a corner, we got Taken King and Witch Queen. So,
yeah, it's good things eventually came from it. This will probably Final Fantasy XIV or Baldur's Gate will probably end up winning this award.
Yeah.
Though there is a deep cyberpunk community. So that has a possibility, but I have a feeling it's going to go to Final Fantasy XIV or Baldur's Gate, because I think Baldur's Gate is just going to win a lot of categories by default.
Yep.
But let's go down to some of the other categories, which, again, I hate the way this website works.
View all. Don't hit previous or next. View all.
Yeah. Best game direction. These games will look familiar later. Remedy, Alan Wake 2, Larian Studios, Baldur's Gate 3, Insomniac, Marvel Spider-Man, Nintendo, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and Nintendo again with Tears of the Kingdom, The Legend of Zelda. This one I think is, as much as, like the PlayStation and Nintendo games deserve it, this is probably between Alan Wake and Baldur's Gate 3.
Yep.
I would imagine
the other three kind of direct themselves.
Right, it doesn't like those.
You could almost argue Alan Wake directs it, or Alan Wake 2 directs itself, but at the same time, I don't know enough about the franchise to see the direction this went in. But people are loving it and praising it, and so I'm not an Alan Wake person. But like how many times, like Super Mario Wonder, how many different things are you going to? I'm sorry. How many how many different ways are you going to do 2D Mario? How much credit are you going to give for making Mario an elephant? Like, it's still fun. They're still fantastic games, but there's that direction. You're not doing some innovative direction when you do this.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Zelda, it's like there's a lot of technical achievement in that game, but for the most part, the world and stuff like that, I feel like, without insulting it and saying
you added caves and clouds.
Yeah, but you found cool ass mechanics and technical things to accomplish that.
You added caves, clouds, and Minecraft.
Yeah, this almost feels like this award is the runners up for Game of the Year.
Yep.
And that's why I think an Alan Wake probably will edge us out, because Alan Wake I don't think is going to get Game of the Year. It's, by all accounts and purposes, it's a fantastic game. It took some chances, but I think the other games just would top it in that final category. So this is where it has a chance to shine.
Spider-Man 2 is in the same genre. You're telling you're telling all Insomniac is doing is telling their version of the Spider-Man story.
Yeah, they did it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's my personal Game of the Year.
Yeah,
but it's direction, art, game direction wise and design.
The first one should have won something.
Yes, but this is just expanding on that. Yeah. And Baldur's Gate 3, even though it is a sequel, it's vastly different.
Yeah, but it's like a 10-year-old sequel.
yeah, it's been a while. The next category I wanted to talk about is Best RPG. So this one is Starfield. Starfield didn't get a lot of love. We'll talk about that a little later, but it's justifiable. Lies of P, Final Fantasy 16, Baldur's Gate 3, and then Sea of Stars. Pretty strong category. There's some questions on is Lies of P really an RPG sort of thing, and is Starfield actually quite good enough to get in this category? But I think it might have been a light year for traditional RPGs.
Yeah, I mean, if you're putting Lies of P in here, Starfield is in there by default. Starfield is more RPG than Lies of P.
Yeah.
Is Bloodborne an RPG?
It is. It's an action, but it's one of those things where every game is an RPG if you really look at it.
Because Lies of P is a Bloodborne clone.
Yeah. You can question Bloodborne isn't full RPG, but it has heavy RPG elements. You get into semantics when you get into these categories.
Is Destiny an RPG? No, it's a shooter. You're going back and forth. So
yeah, this is a category that I think Sea of Stars any other year would definitely have a chance of taking this, but it's going against
See, this is this
Baldur's Gate.
right. I know it's going against Baldur's Gate, but I feel like the thing that sucks about this, like, and I don't have the right answer, but if you're going to be in the Game of the Year category, I almost feel like you don't need to be in the RPG category, because, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna win Game of the Year. You're the best of all of the games. So then by default, you should win
You're the best. You should win
every other award. Yeah, every other category you're in. So there becomes a certain point in time where, yeah, Baldur's Gate is phenomenal and fantastic, but realistically, probably Sea of Stars is mechanically the best RPG.
Yeah, and you would hope that's how voters would see it. And again, it's going to be the board of voters for Keeley, and then the fan vote counts for a percentage.
Yeah.
You would hope that people would go into these categories with that perspective, but most likely people just go in this category and just pick the popular game that they're most familiar
even
with.
the description they wrote for what they consider, what the Video Game Awards is classifying as a best RPG, the best game designed with rich player character customization and progression, including massively multiplayer experiences. Sea of Stars doesn't have that. There's no customization, there's no multiplayer experience. Baldur's Gate has co-op, but there's not a multiplayer experience to it. Starfield doesn't. Final Fantasy 16 doesn't. So I don't like the wording on this category.
But that's why it says
at all.
including. Like, they're just trying to let you know that like previous years an MMO might be included in this category, but this year there's not.
But the ironic part is, in this description, there's not the word role-playing game in the description anywhere.
It's just deep character customization and progression. And honestly, if you look at 16, you're not really customizing your character outside of outfits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going that deep, but there is character customization in terms of like building out skill trees.
I'm just like, if you want to get that rigid with what their category says, none of those games qualify for it. So that's all I'm saying. It's poor wording on the Game Awards part.
and that's the thing that they get into when you look at some of these categories, and that's why there's been controversies in years past. When we look at the next category, best fighting game, last year a single player game made it into best fighting game and almost won. This year there's actual fighting games available, and those are Pocket Bravery, which I've never heard of before this, from P-Cube, God of Rock, which I just started to hear about, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2, which just came out like a couple weeks ago, Mortal Kombat 1, and Street Fighter 6. The reason I just mentioned this category because it's actually a surprisingly great year for fighting games.
Anytime you get a Mortal Kombat and a Street Fighter in the same year, it's a great year.
Yeah, and I think that's noteworthy to just be like, you know what, Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 6, which honestly, if they had expanded like the Game of the Year category, I think you could make an argument for either one of them to get into that discussion.
More Mortal Kombat 1, because I feel like they have started to tell a better single player story over the last couple of years.
It's been like, and then Street Fighter 6 expanded like some of the customization and the player hub stuff that that has made it more stand out than usual, or at least more stand out than Street Fighter 5 was. And then when you look at Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2, it looks like they took the blueprint that was kind of rough in with the first game, and they made a hell of a like Smash clone with this one. So it's kind of cool to see that get nominated and actually be worthy of a nomination, and not just like, we need to fill this category with more games. But yeah, that's best fighting game. And then probably the most controversial category, best independent game. So the games in this are Cocoon from Geometric Interactive, published by Annapurna. Dave the Diver, which is Mint Rocket, but it's published by Nexus. Dredge from Team 17 and Black Salt Games. Sea of Stars from Sabotage, published by Devolver. And Viewfinder Sad Owl Studios, published by Thunderful Publishing. So Dave, why this is controversial is Dave the Diver is being backed by Nexon. Sea of Stars is being backed by Devolver. And technically the biggest independent game this year is Baldur's Gate 3.
Mm-hmm.
Because Larian fully independent and just kind of made
I believe they self-published.
They self-published. And just and it's so unbelievable because of, when you look at Baldur's Gate 3, like, you wouldn't think of them as independent.
They need to change the word independent to best budget. Best value, like it's got to be like best budget, best value game, best use of funds. I don't know, like that's what we're talking about. Like that's really what we're talking about is that you're making a game that sells a couple million copies that you made for $40 million. I don't know, like you made for $20 million, whatever it is. Like that's what we're getting into. Of like you're a single A studio that made something that is going toe to toe with a AAA game, and that's exactly what Sea of Stars is doing.
Yeah, but
and I've heard great things about Cocoon.
Yeah, I've heard great things about Cocoon, and it's published by Annapurna, which is publicly, not publicly traded, but it's owned by a movie studio, the very established publisher. That like the category being best independent game, and then when you read description for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside the traditional publishing system.
What does that mean?
It's like Devolver Digital is traditional publishing now.
Right.
Annapurna is traditional publishing now. Dave the Diver, yes, it's a small game made by a small studio, but that small studio was created by Nexon, which is a billion-dollar company.
Was Sifu up for an independent game last year? Best independent?
It might have been,
okay.
Yeah. And Stray was as well, and Stray, Annapurna, and now it's being turned into an Annapurna film.
Team 17 has been around for years.
Yeah, but I would say they're small enough still,
right.
But you could argue they're a traditional publisher because they publish multiple games a year.
And we get into this debate. You can go back and forth. You can play ping pong with this. Does Sabotage need Devolver, or does Devolver need Sabotage? And the answer is both.
Yeah, it's both because that's how Devolver makes their bread and butter, but you don't... Sea of Stars would have just been released into the ether if Devolver didn't get behind it.
Yeah.
And brought it in front of as many people as
possible.
But
Sabotage has the pedigree with Messenger and the relationship with Devolver to do this. And to have the faith. And Devolver's like, okay, here you go. Here's the money. Get your game ready, and we'll work with you. And
we'll handle the marketing, we'll handle the publishing, all that stuff. And the only thing we don't know, though, we'll start finding out now that Devolver is publicly traded, is like how much money they are giving these independent studios. And at a certain point, could you consider them independent? Like they might have been independent with the idea, but then when you get like a full QA, team working on stuff and a whole marketing department, they're gonna have to redefine this category eventually. And they have to find a way to say either budget or AA without sounding insulting.
Yeah, I don't want to make everything sound like this, but is Bungie independent?
Not anymore, but they were, and they should have been nominated the last 7 years.
Yeah, so I mean, was Bethesda independent before Microsoft bought them? Because they were their own bubble.
Well, but they were a traditional publisher, so by this definition, they wouldn't count.
Yeah, but so if you're not a traditional publisher, you have to get a publisher, and that's what Sabotage does. Sabotage doesn't have the ability to publish, so Devolver publishes for them.
Technically, they would. Like you can self-publish, like Cocoon did, and like the other game did on that category, or like Larian did, but it does cost upfront money that they just didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
I almost like the category like best indie debut a little bit more. Yeah. I think that is a really good category. The thing with that category is it's the game's
best non-publicly traded studio game.
Like first game released, and that is actually like a good category. Best debut indie game, and it's Cocoon, Dredge, Pizza Tower, Viewfinder, and Venba. Those are all. This is the indie category, but it is punishing indie games that indie companies that have made multiple games, basically. But like first try indie game, this is a good category for that. But it's just like, why is Dave the Diver not in here? I believe that is that studio's first game, but they didn't qualify for this category. So again, you can break down every category and it's very questionable stuff, but we'll get into the category that everyone cares about, and that is Game of the Year. There are 6 nominees in this category.
For the record, best ongoing is like wow. Okay. Cyberpunk's in best ongoing.
Yeah, and that's not ongoing. They're done. They released their expansion.
Sorry, I just clicked on something else.
No, but that's the funny thing is like you want to talk about a disgruntled community. The WoW community is pretty disgruntled. It's like also when they do content creator of the year, I fell down a rabbit hole of like looking at how many nominees have been canceled.
I clicked on it and I don't know who any of those 5 are.
I know who some of them are, but then I
Okay,
went down
but
previous
I'm not paying
years.
attention. I'm old now. I'm just old.
Yeah, no, but it's one of those categories when I look at it and I'm just like, man, so that nominee's canceled, that nominee's canceled, that nominee scammed their community, that nominee did this, and I'm just like, they need to kill this category.
Yep.
Not every time a winner has been like a horrible person, but like when your nominees are filled with like 2 or 3 people you can't mention out loud, it's like, oof,
Yeah.
that category needs to go. Same thing with like esports player of the year, because holy shit, people are terrible in esports. But all right, here's the game of the year nominees, and they are The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, Resident Evil 4, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Baldur's Gate 3, and Alan Wake 2. Pretty fucking solid year for games over here. We'll have our own game of the year discussion in January, but like I think they got it right.
Yeah,
I would say.
I'm not a fan of Resident Evil. I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan of a re-release or remake being there. You know, like that, but that's just a personal opinion. I get it. You know, Baldur's Gate obviously, you know, dominated August and September, whenever it came out. Alan Wake 2 is currently dominated October. Mario Wonder, Tears of the Kingdom dominated, you know, spring, and you know, Marvel and Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man's not a game of the year for me. It's a continuation of something that's awesome and amazing and super successful, but it didn't push the needle for me. You know, but I have, you know, and I think that's one of the coolest things about the conversations you and I have. I was having this conversation with somebody else earlier this week. Like Mario vs. Rabbids last year was my game of the year because it's the game I had the most fun with last year. That's what matters. So what these people or anybody that plays video games are having fun with, like if you went back to Resident Evil 4 for the first time in 10 years or whatever because of this remake, and kudos, awesome, amazing. I'm glad you had a great time with it. You know, I don't think Mario Wonder is game of the year. It's, again, like I said, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're not changing anything. You're having fun with an iconic character. And I would make the same argument for Zelda.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like Mario Wonder, I haven't played it. The people I know have played it, enjoyed it, but no one was like raving about it. But I almost feel like the Game Awards, like the people that nominate games, they kind of just are like, well, we got to have the Mario game in here.
This covers 8-year-olds to 80-year-olds. This list.
Yeah, but there's definitely games I would have like. I think based on what I've heard about Sea of Stars, I almost feel like you need to have a spot just for indies in Game of the Year.
I would easily take Wonder or RE4 off this list and put Sea of Stars there easily.
Yeah, and I could see that too. And you know, I could see like a Street Fighter Mortal Kombat 1 over Mario Wonder or Resident Evil 4, because those are the 2 games that I would say are the weakest in this category. No disrespect against those games, but I totally see why they're on here. But I would Mortal Kombat 1, Street Fighter, Sea of Stars. I could see Final Fantasy 16 potentially get down there.
Whether you like it or don't like it, I think that, you know, you could make a case for Starfield. Like I think you could.
Which,
you know, I know that's part of our question. You know, like it's a question
which we'll talk about now.
Yeah.
So Savage in the chat wanted to ask early question about selections and how Starfield didn't get nominated for Game of the Year, or lack of nominations for Starfield. Starfield only got like 1 or 2 nominees, and honestly, Dave, I don't think it deserved to be there. But I could say you could argue, it being on there, but I just think it was just too weak.
I think the people that played it to completion, though, that played the game to completion at least once, or I think you can play it multiple times or something it does with New Game Plus, I think that they really did enjoy their experience, and you can't nullify that because not you as Michael, but because either you didn't play it or you didn't complete it. Like that's the hard thing. I can say the same thing about Spider-Man. I was having a hard time early on with Spider-Man, and then it took off. Like.
Yeah, but at a certain point, if you put a certain amount of time into a game and it's just not clicking, then you can say, I just don't think that goes into it.
Right. But I feel like you can't demean the person that did after 15 hours have it click for them.
Oh, no, yeah. I don't say you take away, like, oh, this game, you know, is trash, but when we're talking about, like, the Game of the Year thing, like, I feel like you could make more of an argument for Hogwarts Legacy.
I agree.
Than Starfield.
I agreed. And you could make more of a thing for, but it came out too early. Like that's the thing.
It came out too early, and also because Hogwarts Legacy is like, we talked about last week about, the J.K. Rowling situation with it, where like there's no way anyone was going to put Hogwarts Legacy on their list, and Jeff Keighley, I would assume, would be like, we can't say Hogwarts Legacy is a Game of the Year nominee because it just brings too much not unwarranted, it's warranted, but like the devs don't deserve the hatred
the smoke
that
that's
comes
gonna come with it.
Yeah. So like that ends up being, a weaker situation. And
it's just harder. Like it's harder when you release a game in the first 6 months of the year. Harder. The only one that's on here that released in the first 6 months of the year is Zelda.
As Resident Evil.
When did RE4 in March? Okay.
March, I believe. Yeah, March or February.
Okay.
But I also think it was such a big game because it's Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, and I would argue. I know media gets, we used to have some of this privilege and stuff like that, but Spider-Man and Mario Wonder, like, can you really make that justification in 21 days?
Well, here's the thing: is like I know Marvel Spider-Man, they got it a month before release, so they were playing that in August. So yes, Alan Wake 2, I think they may have been 2 weeks before release, and that released pretty late. Yeah. So I would say Alan Wake 2 and Mario Wonder would probably be the games that you're just like, did enough people really dive into those games?
This is the state of the game industry right now, folks. So like every single one of these games that's on here is a sequel to something or a continuation. Every game.
Yeah.
There's not a new innovative IP, like that's, and that would be the only thing that I would like one of the things that I would put in the ground for Hogwarts and for Starfield is that they're new directional IP.
Yeah, I think those, if you were to like, especially if you're gonna like, again, Super Mario Wonder does cool things, but it's still a Mario game. It's a platforming Mario game, and Resident Evil 4 is a remaster or remake. It's a in-depth remake, but like those are the two weakest game on a category, which is why I think you could probably argue a Starfield, a Hogwarts. I believe there's another game out, and a Final Fantasy 16. You can argue those games on there. Because yes, it's the 16th Final Fantasy, but they're all completely different experiences.
Right? Yeah, they're their own. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would, if Final Fantasy 16 was on here, I would say that that's an independent, like, because they're telling a different story. Like they tell a different story from 16 than they did from 12.
It's funny though, Dave. We didn't even consider Diablo 4, and Diablo 4 is one of those ones where it's like if there was like worse community support, it would go to Diablo 4 because everyone fucking loved Diablo 4 when it came out the first month.
Read your buddy in chat. Look who showed up in chat.
Oh shit, M. Look at that motherfucker. Yeah, RE4 is nominated for Game of the Year. Remakes don't belong on that list. Remake of the Year should be its own category. Yeah, I agree. Remake of the Year should be its own category at this point.
And that's Emra for anybody that's
that is M.
Like that's been around for a long, long time. That's Emra.
Yeah.
So.
But like when it comes to like I lost my train of thought when we were talking, but like RE4 being on the list, it just seems kind of weak for it to be on there, and there's more things you can justify.
Wonder feels weak.
Wonder feels weak.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I was talking about Diablo 4. Dave, everyone fucking loved that game the first month, and they dropped the ball on that game. But I would say the positivity around that first month of the game is probably higher than the positivity around Wonder or the positivity that was around Resident Evil 4. But it just shows you how bad you can fuck up a live service game.
The other game I would make the recommendation for that I've heard amazing things about that I haven't played either is Remnant 2.
Oh yeah, I've heard that, and I'm surprised we didn't see it pop up. I don't see it being in the Game
Remnant
of the Year.
2 got a lot of. It should have got more love than it. Like a lot of people have enjoyed Remnant 2.
How does that? Because that's technically an RPG, right? Are those?
It is if to see it like if the other stuff that we mentioned was RPG. So here, real quick though, if you had to put these quickly in one through 6 numerical order, 1 being the best, 6 being the worst of these, like what would be your order?
For my personal order, what I think things are gonna go.
Both.
Okay, so how I think things are gonna go, it's gonna be Baldur's Gate 3, Alan Wake 2, Zelda 3, Spider-Man 4.
Okay.
Resident Evil 5, Mario 6.
Agreed. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And
personal?
Yeah.
It's going to be Baldur's Gate 3. Haven't played it, but I literally watched my fiance play the game twice.
You played it through osmosis.
Yes, yeah. So, like, personal, it's Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 3. It's funny because these all have numbers on them as well.
Have you played Have you played Alan Wake though?
Dabbled.
Okay.
Haven't full on. But everything I've seen, like it's one of those games where like I dabbled in it, and then I'm like, I'm gonna watch someone else play as well.
Okay.
And I didn't care about spoilers and the stuff that I can't wait to get further in it now.
Okay.
And then I would say I didn't finish Resident Evil 4, but Resident Evil 4 is pretty good based off this stuff.
Yeah.
And then like unfortunately, I'm just not interested in Zelda, and I'm less interested in Mario Wonder. So that would be my personal list. But both lists have Baldur's Gate 3 number one. Right. I think Baldur's Gate not winning. The only one I think has a chance is Alan Wake 2, and that's just because I kind of know how critics think about things. And recency bias, I think, will play a part in that. But what about you, Dave? What is how you think it's going to go?
I agree. Baldur's Gate is going to run away with Game of the Year. And I would say that I think it would. I feel like just based on what I'm hearing talked about, I think it'll go Baldur's Gate, Alan Wake, Tears of the Kingdom, Wonder, Spider-Man, Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think when you get to the bottom,
and I'm totally. I mean, like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I have not played 4 of the 6 games, or four out of the 6 on this list. I have not played. I will. I can tell you right now, like more than likely, I will not play Baldur's Gate unless it shows up on Game Pass. I won't buy it. I will not buy Alan Wake.
And
I
you won't
might
put the
buy
75
4.
hours into.
Yeah, I might buy Resident Evil 4, Wonder, Tears, and Spider-Man. I will play, or either will or have.
Yeah. And I. Do you think there would be controversy if Keighley says next year one of the spots is reserved for an indie game?
No.
Like, I feel like you have to do that.
But you have to define what an indie game is.
Yeah, they need to get a better definition, but then they also then need to then...
And we've been having this conversation about what an indie game is for 7 years.
Well, yeah, it's because it constantly fluctuates, and there's more money going into indie games than ever before, so it's like, it's a useless word. We almost have to go back to AA and like just kind of bring that back. Can we just say like old school THQ game for that?
We call it minor league affiliate games.
something. The G League.
The G League. Jeez.
Yeah, no, but there's. I'm pretty happy with like where this went. Everyone just watches the Game Awards for the trailers.
For the announcements for next year. Like,
yeah. When one of your awards is like most anticipated game, like that kind of tells you where things go. I gotta look up that award to see how many of those games ended up bombing.
From last year or something. Yeah, so I mean, it's cool. I just don't put too much weight into it though. Like, listen to do your homework, do your research. You know what games you like to play. I tell people all the time, don't focus on one person. Try not to focus on one platform unless it's the only platform you own. But just play, like, you know.
Yeah, like we talked about this for 20 minutes, but we're having fun with it.
Yeah.
Like, we're not like taking this super serious. We'll take ours serious. Like, we don't.
The narrative around Xbox hasn't first party hasn't had a Game of the Year nomination in 6 years. Okay.
Oh God, the Xbox tax has been trending all week, and I'm just like, this Xbox hasn't put out a good enough game.
But everybody said Starfield's going to be Game of the Year. Nobody ever expected Starfield to win Game of the Year. Like, no,
they did 4 years ago when it was first announced, and Bethesda was in everyone's good graces.
Right.
But Bethesda, people got tired of Bethesda, and Bethesda just happened to get acquired by Xbox around the same time.
We were all saying it's going to be Fallout in space, and it's going to be an 8, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, but back when they announced it, Bethesda, even their 8s would get 10s. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's constant thing I said when I first talked about Starfield earlier this year. Like, just people's expectations caught up. Bethesda's always been a company that delivers 8s.
Baldur's Gate got in front of Starfield, and it was a Goliath. That's what happened to Starfield. If you really want to know, that's what happened to Starfield. Baldur's Gate, 8 days in front of it.
And Baldur's Gate's such a big thing that it's going to have ramifications off games coming out in the future.
Baldur's Gate was a better breath of fresh air in the gaming world than Starfield. That's it.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason
Spider-Man
why
2 is not a different breath of fresh air. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom isn't a different breath of fresh air. Wonder isn't. Alan Wake 2, you could argue, is there because it's been a long time since Alan Wake was out. Like,
and they look like they got to go crazy with
yeah,
Alan Wake
absolutely.
2. Like,
So.
yeah. And like when it comes to like Baldur's Gate 3, there's a reason devs were like, fuck, this game's gonna like fuck up workflows in the future. And like if you're like EA with BioWare next year, you're like, shit, we're releasing after Baldur's Gate 3, even if it's a year or two after. And you're gonna find that like that's why I think Baldur's Gate 3 is a lock for this, because it's like a game changer in terms of how people expect things, and you can't really say that for anything else in that category.
Right, absolutely not.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the Game Awards, which are happening December 7th or 10th.
7th, 8th, something like that. Yeah,
something like that. I'll watch it. Dave, maybe we'll sit down that night and do a co-stream.
Yeah. I have to make sure I get that. You're gonna have to tell me when that date is. I do write my own schedule, but I will forget.
Yeah. We'll debate about like it's like sometimes it's like 4 hours. I don't know if me and Dave can do a whole like sit here for 4 hours thing. Maybe watch the last hour together.
Yeah. All right. So obviously, as we're getting into mid-November, mid to late November at this point, nothing's really being delayed because nothing's coming out. There is something somewhat major coming in December, isn't there?
Dave, don't do this to me.
But it's fine.
I know the Like a Dragon game came out last week.
Right. Okay.
I almost bought it this weekend. Damn it. Game Informer's got the easier list.
Yeah.
Game Informer.
So I was just feeling like, what else can be delayed at this point in time? So, I mean, Suicide Squad released their little thing and kept saying February 2nd. They got a pretty cool release date, though, 2/2/24. So.
You know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep.
You gotta...
So, and then what we're playing and watching. So, while you're digging for that, I'll jump into this really quick.
I just realized Assassin's Creed. I bought Assassin's Creed, but...
Right. Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Assassin's Creed.
Right. But that's already out. So I feel
but there was no nominees for it in the game.
I feel like something was coming out like December 10th or 12th or something got delayed into December, but
I'm looking. Hogwarts came out today or yesterday.
On what, Switch?
Super Mario RPG comes out Friday. Which I think both of us are gonna end up picking that up.
Yeah.
I'm looking, Dave.
Yeah,
I'm looking.
Good. Maybe there's not nothing in December. I always feel like something gets pushed to December, but but maybe it wasn't.
Is Sonic Dream Team something?
No.
Oh, Avatar.
There we go.
December 7th.
I knew. Yeah. Okay. And that's the one. That's the one. The reason I was talking about December is because that's what falls into that no man's land. It comes out in 2024, but you're not going to get nominated. Or it comes out in 2023, but you're not on the 2024 list because you came out in 2023, but you came out after the awards. You know, so it's like,
and then game sales is like a complete dice roll because people have already locked in their holiday shopping.
And the thing that sucks is that this could be phenomenal. Like, Avatar has the potential and the ability of the franchise to be phenomenal, right? It does. Potential. I don't think it will be.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. The previews from a week ago didn't sound promising, but like it has potential regardless of those previews. So,
all right. So what we're playing and watching. So I have played and completed Spider-Man 2.
Yay.
So we will be recording that this week. Apologies for taking a little longer. I'm trying to I really enjoyed it. The last 60% was great. The first 40% was rough. It was a little rough.
We won't get into spoilers, but Dave, I was talking about this with my friend Josh, who's recently beat the game. Without doing spoilers, was the carnival one of the worst things you played?
Yeah, that's the stuff that I was talking about. That I started getting some Uncharted feel to it, like when the investigation things or walking around and checking boxes, like that feels like sidey stuff, like side mission stuff to me. I felt like it was kind of like forced on me. Like
same thing with the MJ stuff. Yeah, we'll talk about it in a spoiler cast, but like I love MJ. Actually, that's a lie. I love this MJ. In the game, but I don't love that character enough that I'm like, I want to play that character multiple times. Like, I don't think that is necessary, and I hope that's something they move away from in the future. But,
I'm also curious. Yeah, I'm curious about your opinion on this because I was irritated by this, and the only thing I'm going to ask you is, how did you feel about the consistent multi-phase fights?
I'm kind of used to games doing that in terms of just like I got the health bar down. There's a new health bar. Like I'm used to that.
It just seemed like it was a lot.
There's one or two that it seemed like it was a lot, but there again, I think that's the problem in the first half of the game. The second half of the game, like you kind of wanted the fights to go a little long. But I also think like depending on what difficulty you played in, it could be annoying. Like because if you're playing it
What difficulty did you play at?
one above medium,
Okay, so amazing.
whatever. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
the
Yeah.
mid-level one, right?
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was just enough challenge because I
Yeah.
remember uh playing like because I bumped my difficulty up like halfway through the game.
Okay.
Because I was just one of those things where I was just like I was getting through the first sections too early, and I'm just
Yeah.
like it's annoying that there's multiple sections, and I'm like going through them too early to where I just like extended.
And
them,
I'll be
so.
honest, like I hate it in all games, but I hate parry systems. Like I really hated the parry system. Like I just
See, but the thing is, a good thing about Spider-Man is like there's a parry system, but you don't really have the
right.
parry.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you're
But
good.
it just seemed like I got
stuff.
punished. Like if you either missed the parry or missed dodging the parry, you got punished, and you got punished fast.
Yeah, it could be brutal, but for the most part, you could stay away from that.
Yeah.
My parry was just swinging away.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was great. I find myself like I beat the game, and then I find myself just for whatever reason, like, and I usually don't do this with other games, but I enjoy the gameplay in Spider-Man enough as I'm clearing burrows. I'm going through, and I think I was playing a little bit right before we recorded, and I think I'm at like 77%. Like,
yeah. And we talked about this in previous episodes. There is a better variety of stuff that you are doing in this, and there's only like one activity that I thought was kind of boring, but at least it was different from the other activities.
The collectible thing's a little annoying. The little beams that pop out, like the little pulses that pop out. I've been like trying to find 2 of them in a burrow, and I can't find anything. And I've gone up and down the streets and everything. So like,
so some of them I feel I had the same problem where I was like I've been everywhere, and I almost felt like they were like story triggered or something.
But I'm done with the story. But other stories, other quests. Yeah, like I've been finishing some of the like. And as soon as I beat a game, I usually try to like okay, what did I not necessarily what did I miss, but like what little Easter eggs did I not understand, or like and there's other side quests that tie to the first game. There's other side quests that people are saying are teasing DLC. And there's people already getting out of bounds in areas that they believe are going to be added as DLC. So like I at this point in time with the game being out for almost a month, I would love for Insomniac and Sony to say something if what their plans are for because they did little episodes, right, with the first one. Did they call them episodes, or what did they call them? They had like 3 different things.
Yeah, there was it was one continuous story, but I believe they were episodes. It was like 3 episodes. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for that content, and they opened the door for them to go many different directions. Yeah, I would like at the Game Awards some sort of announcement, or I want the announcement of like, hey, that's it for Spider-Man right now. We're head down on Wolverine.
Right. Because like, are we going to get a Miles Morales like thing for anything that they teased in this game?
Yeah, that's the thing we gotta have to pull back. Like,
so there's just a lot. They left a big open door, and I just don't know what their plans are. Like, and not that I necessarily need to know what the plans are, but there's a part of me that feels like, let me pull back and stop. Like, if I 100% this game, like 100% and clear the map, platinum it or whatever, which I may or may not do. I have to look and see.
It's very doable.
Yeah, if I do that, I don't know how enticed I will be to come back to play a 2-hour story, versus like if I'm at 80% or 85% and then they announce something, I might be like, okay, cool. I'll wait for that 2-hour story to come out, and then I'll finish clearing burrows again,
Yeah. As someone who like platinumed it, I've been having it put me in a game funk where I'm like, damn, I missed my time with Spider-Man 2. I wish there was more, but while I was playing the game in the moment, I was like, okay, this is a good time for this game to end. Like, I'm in like a weird spot where it's like I want more Spider-Man, but I was kind of happy where it left off, and I'm
happy that I beat it, because I tend to start stuff and not finish them, so I'm happy that I beat it. It does kind of line up well with me to just switch over to Mario RPG, which is something I know I can beat and I will beat. And then hopefully I can go, pick up some other things or go back and clean up some other things like Ragnarok and Tears of the Kingdom and stuff as we get near the end. Not that I need to play more Tears to figure out if it's going to be on my list. Excuse me, on my list or not. But that's been a lot of my focus. was that, and we are going to record a spoiler cast for our Patreon. So patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming. It'll be on there for a couple weeks. Maybe that'll be a holiday or a New Year's treat for everybody. But we are going to do a spoiler cast on Patreon first, but then it will be released to the public in 2023. So.
Yeah.
All right.
For me, Dave, nothing. I bought a few games, Dave. I bought Armored
You added to
Core.
your pile of shrink wrap. So.
Yeah, it's in my shrink wrap pile. I bought Assassin's Creed Mirage. I bought Final Fantasy 16. I bought an Xbox controller off a TikTok shop.
Really?
And I'm too afraid to open it because I feel like I got scammed because it was $20.
Okay.
But I'll open that later. I guess. Yeah. So me, I literally like last week. I just only had the energy to play Tetris 99. Like that's literally all I played. And again, it's this thing I have when I usually finish like games that I was anticipating for so long, which was Spider-Man 2, where I just don't know what to do next. So like I have my pile of games, and I'm just like, I'm looking at Mirage, I'm looking at Armored Core, and I'm both like my excitement level is pretty even for both of them, and it's kind of like paralyzing me from deciding which one to do. So
which is
I'm
why I
probably
think
gonna
a
do,
Super Mario RPG remake fits right in there for me. Like,
yeah, and Super Mario RPG was going to be mine, but I'm like, you know what, that could be a good game to play around Christmas.
yeah, but for me to
know?
sandwich, for me to do Sea of Stars and Mario RPG with Spider-Man 2 in the middle is like ideal for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's still more games that I do want to pick up this year that I'm going to be looking at for like sales. Like I almost bought the Like a Dragon game this weekend because it came out, and I love that series. And I finished all the Kiryu games, and I never finished the original Like a Dragon. Whatever, is it 7? Yakuza 7 or whatever. It's confusing because they eventually named the whole franchise Like a Dragon. But like that was its own separate side story, so me not finishing it doesn't matter. But my favorite character through 6 games has a new game that came out, you know, and I'm just like, shit, like I wanna. Yeah, I should play Judgment, but I'm not. But like, so like, it's one of those things where like I'm looking at like the current Like a Dragon game, The Man with No Name or whatever, and I'm like, technically, I've completed that character's previous 6 games. Do I just want to jump into that, or do I need to force myself to go back and finish Like a Dragon, which I was enjoying? That game just was taking a long time to complete.
Nice.
So I'm just kind of, and then also, you know, Alan Wake 2 is like sitting there. That was something like I started and then I just like stopped because I was like, this is really good, but I want to find time to just sink into this.
Yeah.
But you know, we're going to be taking the podcast off next week, so I'll probably dive into some games next week.
Awesome.
Hopefully finish something.
Sweet. All right. So questions and comments. Savage asked that comment about Starfield that we already talked about. You know, and then really nothing to community spotlight. The biggest spotlight right now, I would say, would be the Game Awards. Please try to vote, or talk about. But again, like I said, don't hold that in too high of regard. I know that's like the video games version of the Emmys now, which is essentially what it is. But plenty of things in the world are movie of the year that I've never seen. I forgot. I saw the Marvels.
That seems to be everyone's response.
Yeah.
To seeing Marvels, even if they liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
Even if they liked it.
But it was on Friday, and today's Wednesday, so it feels like it was a long time ago. So Ansel and I went and saw the Marvels. I enjoyed it. I laughed. I really do feel like it's broken my Marvel funk to where I need to go back and watch.
That's what I'm hoping it does for me.
Yeah.
But
I need to watch Loki season 1 again because it came out when I was on overnights, and I fell asleep almost all the time watching it because I wanted to watch it in the morning so I wouldn't get spoiled, and I couldn't process it. Because I'm hearing fantastic things about Loki season 2.
Yeah.
I would say, did you watch Miss Marvel?
Yeah, I finished it.
Okay.
And I thought it was okay. Miss Marvel is one of those things where it started high and it kind of got mid.
Watching Miss Marvel helps with the content of the Marvels. Tremendously helps with it. It's not required, but it helps a lot for you to understand the dynamic. There was plenty of time. Like, it was nice to go to a Marvel movie and not have anxiety and stress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time I can say it in a little while. I didn't watch the most recent like Ant-Man and the Wasp or Ant-Man 2.
You don't need to.
Yeah.
I mean, you should for story purposes, but the movie's not good, so it's like.
And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I think people are hating on this game because it had 3 female lead characters.
Oh, 100%. Like there's there's groups of people, we'll call them incels, that just hate Brie Larson.
Yeah.
And like whatever Brie Larson does, they're just gonna hate on it.
Yeah.
And then now she's partnered with like two other women, and
Yeah.
like people are just gonna hate on it.
And two other
so-
women that aren't white.
Exactly.
It's
And they're just
like-
they're like
but-
3 times as mad.
Yeah, I thought it was a great movie. I thought it's like an hour and 40 minutes, an hour and 45 minutes. So good length of time. Multiple times where I laughed out loud during the movie, which I haven't done in a Marvel movie on a regular basis. Sure, you get 1 or 2 one-liners in there, but it was great. It had probably one of the best comedic scenes that I think they could do that I was very happy with, and that's all I'm going to say. And I walked away from that curious about how they're going to continue the story arc with that. And the mid-credit scene is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I've had that spoiled for me, but
Okay.
I still want to see it in the theater.
Yeah.
I'm going to see it this weekend.
Okay.
So.
It's 100% worth going. Again, I would recommend if you have access to Disney Plus and you haven't watched Miss Marvel, I think it's like 6 episodes. I would recommend it would help with the understanding the character arc that's happening in the movies, but it's not required.
Yeah, I would say especially like Captain Marvel was an okay movie, the first one.
Yeah.
So I would say that's okay. Miss Marvel is like okay to good,
Yeah.
and it sounds like Miss Marvel's is like good to great.
Okay.
Like if you're gonna scale things, so
Yeah.
like it sounds from everyone I talked to that like I talked to people that hated Captain Marvel the first movie because it was an okay movie
Yeah.
that actually loved Miss Marvel or the Marvels because it seems like it improved on so many different things.
Kamala
And also,
Khan,
it-
Kamala Khan's character adds a very nice dynamic to the MCU that it's needed for years.
Yeah, and this is literally what Miss Marvel did in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like the comics were starting to feel stale, and then Kamala Khan and Miles get inserted in the comics,
Yeah.
and people are like, "Oh shit, Marvel's back!"
Yeah,
like,
I'm just talking about just the little teenage girl thing she does where she sees something, she goes "Ee!" like just little things that you know, like
yeah. It's a new life because like the Marvel stuff is for so long. It's just been building up. Like characters are just like
Civil
filled with
War,
dread.
Thanos, and it's like
Yeah. So to take a step back, I mean, they're building towards the next big thing,
Yeah.
pending legal cases, and like that is the thing that like will happen eventually, but right now is the fun part of
Yeah.
the building.
So I thoroughly enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it, and seeing how they're trying to tie everything together on old MCU, new MCU, the rumors of what the MCU may or may not be doing, how they're bringing everything that they've been kind of purchasing together. It just like this was just a nice. I know I've said this earlier about a bit. Like this was the breath of fresh air that Marvel needed. I think.
Yeah.
So.
And looks like it's performing horribly at the box office. So
I think a lot of that has to do with marketing, though. Like the
the actors were on strike, so they couldn't
Right.
promote it up until like the day the movie came
and
out.
again,
So
I
think it's gonna have a good
I don't
second
know her
weekend.
name. The Kamala Khan actress, I don't know what her name is.
Oh yeah, is it Amon something? I forget.
But
what it
she
is, yeah.
started doing some social media stuff once the strike ended, and people
Yeah.
were like, "Damn, I wish we would have known about this like 3-4 weeks ago." Like, and she's like, pretty much like she couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
not that like a Marvel movie needs the marketing, but
But it helps.
Like, so just to get it kind of spoken about or hear about, like they weren't able to do like the Good Morning America tour. They weren't showing up on there. They weren't showing up on radio, random, national radio shows or talking about, or whatever. Like they couldn't even TikTok the stuff, like,
Yeah.
like they couldn't do anything. And she's I really like her character. I like her as an actress. I think I don't even know what else she's acted in, and it might be nothing. But she's a very.
No, they really nailed it when they cast her.
Yep.
Like it's such a good move, and it was one of those things that like we talked about with the MCU of just like after certain characters died off and then like real life stuff happened, with Chadwick Boseman, of just like who's going to be like the face of the future Avengers. And it was like, well, Tom Holland doesn't seem like he's too into it. Some of the other characters are just too old. And then they cast her, and you're just like, you know what? You could build the next 10 years off of her, like from a personality standpoint and the energy she brings to the universe. So like, I'm super happy with her casting, and like hopefully like Disney doesn't get discouraged by the first box office week being poor.
Right.
Because I think they do have something with that actress and with that character.
Absolutely. So, All right. So like we said at the beginning of the show, you can follow us on our socials. The main account is at Digital Days Pod. Michael's is at the first MJC. Mine is at Good Dave Hunt. We have a Facebook group and a Discord server. I would really, we kind of were talking about it a little bit. I know a lot of people like their Facebook and that stuff, but Michael and I are much more active on Discord. So in terms of like conversations or questions or interaction or just kind of just hanging out. The push has been towards Discord. We record the show on Discord. There's some pretty lively threads, depending on the time of day and the day of the week, like threads can kind of go for a little bit. I can 100% say there's really no arguing or bickering going on in our servers. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of cool. Ben Palmer is going to Palmer, and he's got his PlayStation Portal thing when he has his whole gaming room dedicated to playing video games. He has this entire room just to play video games, but yet he still needs a handheld device. I don't get
Which PlayStation does he connect it to?
Yeah, like
does that make things confusing to just like shit the wrong PlayStations on?
Which when you connect and you're trying to find your PlayStation, you got to scroll through 6 screen swipes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing some good things about the Portal. I just don't see I don't see the niche for me. Even Angela asked me if I wanted one.
I'm waiting for a fire sale. Before I pick it up, because there's some value for it for me, but not enough to justify.
Right, it's a haptic feedback controller with a screen slapped on it. So, I will say this about Spider-Man 2: phenomenal use of the controller speaker. Phenomenal.
Oh yeah, there's some times where like I played the game muted, because like I was doing something else and I was just doing side, like collectibles,
and
still
going off.
There's enough stuff coming from that speaker that it didn't matter that I had it on muted. I know exactly what was going on based off the controller speaker. Yeah,
I find myself like swinging by and hear that little pinging, even though it's just for random tech parts, and I turn around and do a 180 and go back and search on top of buildings, so. But yeah, that's our show for this week. Again, Patreon's linked in the show notes. All that stuff is there. YouTube is there. Twitch is there. Website's there. Discord's there. Facebook's there. Twitter's there. Everything's on the website. Everything's in the show notes. Click on it. Check it out. Share the show. Leave a review. Download the show. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Any of that stuff as we're getting ready to. Some people might be traveling for the holidays. Give them some recommendations of here's 2 idiots talking about video games that like to have fun. And yeah, we really appreciate it. I hope everyone has a great week. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving, or whenever you celebrate it. I think Canada Thanksgiving is like the week after, so Curry, whenever your Thanksgiving is. And if you're behind on the show, I hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving. I know a handful of you are behind the show, and have a great.
We're taking Thanksgiving off, so you got time to catch up. So use that week wisely.
So have a great couple days. Have a great holiday. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya
later.
All right.
It's good to know Emra's still alive and hanging out. So
I texted him like 6 months ago, I think.
6 months ago.
I'm bad at texting, especially when I got a new phone. I was just like, I have everyone's number, but I hate doing the like, hey, this is my new number.
Yeah, that's another reason for Discord, man. Just like
Emra, get in our Discord. I think you're not banned from there or anything. You're allowed.
Oh, wow. Hey, Chad Warden. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you, Chad Warden. Henton. I know who you are. But, yeah. All right. Yeah, I got to hit up M. Get him on Discord.
Does he even know how to download Discord? I mean...
He did say he was too old to react to the brutes in Spider-Man, so he might be. I mean, if Josh can figure it out, like Josh pops in every once in a while, like when he remembers he has the app on his computer. He actually, he's not listening anymore because we stopped recording, but we haven't summoned Josh in a while.
What's in October, Ange? Or you agree about the speaker? What's in October?
Are you talking in the YouTube chat?
Yeah. I think you can go to Restream, Michael, and you can see that both chats.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think, because I have a chat in there. Canada Thanksgiving is in October. Okay. Is it Boxing Day or something? Like, I don't know.
That's the day after Christmas is Boxing Day. We're the wrong people to ask for any of this.
It's because Angela's dad is Canadian. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. It's just, he's a weird dude.
A weird Canadian? No.
Yeah, I might have to send you the restream, whatever account I made it for. I don't remember what I did when I was like, cause I was like, is this gonna work? And then I'm like, oh, it worked. And then I just didn't touch it anymore. So like, I don't know. Are we seeing any traction on the YouTube stuff? Have you looked at that, clicks or hits or anything? Or I haven't looked at it
I
this
haven't
week.
bothered.
Yeah.
I'll look at that. We'll talk about that during spoiler cast.
Yeah. All right. I know there's a few of you still hanging out in chat. Again, we'll take it next week off. You guys have a great Thanksgiving. Or have a great week, and we will talk to you guys late November. It won't be December, but it'll be very late November. It's like the episode I think will release into like November 30th. So all right. Talk to y'all later. Have a great week.